Vocabio. Master English your way.
That's not real, that's face-tuned, that is photoshopped, that is not her kitchen, you know, like, nobody...
Have to stand tall against photoshopped models. These skeletons are the photos we shopped for, built close.
To help alleviate some of that overwhelm. So this
really great starting point that I think alleviates a lot of that pressure and contextualizes why it's
1,000 researchers and staff are working to alleviate disparities in public health and
this pathway. You could alleviate tinnitus. That's it. We've done it.
The small ones, the media outlets, the people that snuck in the back, all of you can help create this future.
O'clock in the morning, not to see if I'd snuck out with friends, but to make sure I had put the books away and actually gone to bed.
First came around, and I just barely snuck in there because, I mean, every half pipe's so different.
You know, the same with Broadway shows. She snuck into all these Broadway shows and figured it out. And
an English teacher, and we defected. We snuck out. We stayed in a refugee camp in Austria. We came to the United States.
From Melbourne too, and she's here to disavow everything that I'm about to tell you, so she can tell you the other.
Or to be more specific, to disavow the presence in themselves of what religion is there.
How those have been historically disavowed and somehow try to progress towards a design.
Tracy Crouch, I want to slightly disavow that Tracy Crouch's resignation was not due to
saying that they weren't his president, and so they were disavowing him, and so now it's sort of hypocritical.
And still we need to push ourselves to affirm how they're feeling, learn as much as we can about why they...
That's a great way to do this, and it affirms this as well. The researchers in the study found that
being affirming to myself, being realistic, but also still being kind.
Rabbits, Lucy said. Rabbits, the woman affirmed matter-of-factly. If we wait long enough.
Our Constitution and the way we actualize them and honor them each day.
Get to the point where I can actually actualize this. And then that final or that third, because I think
that is in many ways what actualized the American promise.
The unactualized real and all of these things, that our brains are not able to...
Museography as a topical thought experiment that actualizes, even if in a provisional experimental way.
It was abusively. He coerced these women out of pure threat, often physical.
They literally paid people, coerced people, and threatened people in them to lie.
Tell us that they're vulnerable or that they're being coerced. We don't hear from them in this debate, and I can guarantee
of women being coerced into sex in order to have their basic records, and I had to coerce a Russian soldier to give
areas of the brain as being localized for function. At one level, we kind of got left and right brain.
In a small area, it's fairly localized, and it doesn't correspond one-to-one to the places where...
Work needs to be done within our own city because we localized it to New York specifically. And that's not really something...
Community garden have localized energy production. We also have localized water catchment systems.
50 years ago, it was pretty highly localized. If we decided to go back to a highly localized...
let's work where everybody's vacate and take an occasional weekend getaway for Earth.
Port on Harmony that was just vacated by Starliner's departure will be the port of call for NASA.
Imagination, or were meant to have vacated that space. And I look at this in some detail. So one is
removal of vacating of the regulation, which would mean that when
all of which subsequently vacated to the Elysian fields of Hoboken.
She was dilated quite a bit, and actually...
it dilates the blood vessels, therefore more oxygen and glucose.
So having dilated on that point and illustrated, I hope...
Vision and eye time had dilated, it slowed down, so that freeze frame effect, if you've ever been in a car.
I think is something that maybe is a little bit underrated or not talked about when you think about like philanthropic work.
Just underrated. So we're now, I think, about 25-30%.
And apart from that, it's always good to be underrated than overrated. I think if at the end of the day, मरने से पहले लोग बोलें
This book is that originality is totally overvalued. You can look at any object or any traditions.
Actually not very good, the market would overvalue them. And I went home and I thought, I wrote an email to...
started worrying the NASDAQ was overvalued in 1996. And
I don't know that accessible is such a good word, actually. It's maybe overvalued today, but I think of the...
Go away and you realize, wow, I don't know, I overvalued that. Like I thought that seemed so important when I was in it. But
two contingencies of land or abort, and we would take what's called a PTSL, which is the engine.
Is looking good. We're also monitoring the abort corridor, which is up the eastern seaboard. I'll talk more.
The crewed vehicle, adding the life support systems and the abort systems and then the parachute system. So, you know, I was...
Commands, it was fine. Like the abort and the recover, those never flash. It's just the white text.
And one other thing I wanted to add with that one's pad aborts, right? So we can abort from the pad all the way up.
Very, very strong smells that are aimed at deterring sulfurous smells that are aimed at deterring any sort of passing.
By accumulating nuclear weapons, that is not going to deter people from using them. Any regional agreement.
The things that would have deterred him. They talked to him about the rules-based order, about...
And added to this list of determinants of child health and well-being, and that is adversity and trauma.
Some look like this, and others are encased in a tube to ensure accurate readings.
Except for the hands. The hands are not encased in the liquid cool garment.
Time machine when I was a kid, but when I reread it for purposes of this book, it was very unfamiliar to me.
I do have a story that I've recently been rereading, and that is Julia Child in her autobiography.
Rewatched a favorite movie or reread a favorite book, wishing that this time it would end differently.
Get real. What we knew. I was rereading Ned Gramlich, who was saying that all of the most complex.
To you tonight, I reread Departures, and I think I said to you in a note.
China's going to have a harder time rebalancing than the U.S. is. You write that it's harder to see
growth. We find that the homeowner equity rebounds to the pre-ADU addition value in 3 years. Throughout these,
we should begin to rebalance the portfolio a little bit. If the last 2 years have all
that have previously been too easily disparaged or cast aside, and that all you
practice law for about 4 years. Now, this is not to disparage anybody who has attorneys in their family or you want.
I am not offended by or disparaging of those who did not see the book's potential.
You know, and basically encoded that into a sequence of ones and zeros depending on the press.
Rather than pre-processing the animation frames and encoding them as video files, clearly there's a...
To build something useful, to encode in DNA, some new biomolecule.
Is the person who really encoded that combination of research and practice into our DNA.
A lot of prior knowledge we can just encode into memory the most important bits and pieces.
Of seconds. If you've ever wondered how to induce an immediate existential crisis amongst a group of
correct time in music and dancing and induces to punctuality in the fulfillment of engagement. So this is
something that Daniel Kahneman calls theory-induced blindness. A theory becomes a...
Dating, I would have to be induced, given a jump start with a hormone drip.
And the mechanical stresses that are constantly induced on your bones, and predict the
Vocabio, available in Google Play. Download, discover, improve your English.